Nagyon érdekes előadást fogunk most látni. Váradi Tamás fogja nekünk ezt bemutatni. Lockpicking a téma, sérülésmentes zárnyitás, és azon belül is egy speciális terület, impressziótechnika lesz. A Tamás kérdezte tőlem, hogy kerülnek ők egy hacker konferenciára. A hacker szót már a 40-es, 50-es években is használták Amerikában, és abszolút nem informatikával kapcsolatban, hanem azt az embert hívták hackernek, magyarul, aki ilyen think out of the box típusú ember volt, aki mert másképp gondolkozni, kipróbálni másképp dolgokat. Ezt eleinte művészekre használták, aztán marketingesekre használták, aztán a 80-as, 70-es, 80-as években vette át csak a média, és most már igazából IT-sokra használják. De a lockpicking egy ugyanilyen területe ennek, olyan emberek csinálják ezt, akik mernek kipróbálni másképp dolgokat, és ezt most be is mutatják nektek. Fogadjátok szeretettel!
Sziasztok hackerek, hello lockpickerek, köszöntök minden kedves résztvevőt ezen a nagyszerű konferencián. Kicsit kakuktojás vagyunk, tudom, és a téma is, amivel jöttem ma, az még a lockpickingen belül is egy nagyon érdekes téma, mert egy nagyon különleges téma.
This within lockpicking is also quite interesting. Let me introduce my helper, Csaba Zántó. I'm going to give him a key without a lock without a key. And of course, his task is going to be to cut a key for this lock that will be working with this lock. And of course, I'm going to explain how this is going to work. This is going to be cut through impression technology. Now, he said that if he's going to break 3 keys into it, then he would just leave the stage. Now, our time is normally 10 minutes at competition, so that if there is an unknown lock, without knowing the key, we use this technology to cut a key. We are going to look into his work through a magnifier, and hopefully this is we're going to see interesting pictures. Now, impression technology within lockpicking, but before going into it, let me just draw your attention to Hungarian laws. According to Hungarian laws, what we do, so the ownership, the sale and the purchase of these tools we are using, this is forbidden according to Hungarian law. This is considered to be highly dangerous tools for those who are not entitled to use it. Now, whenever lockpicking is heard, then actually probably you would just see a picture of specific technologies and state-of-the-art technologies and state-of-the-art tools. Now I would like to emphasize here that what it really takes is a lot of practice and a very good knowledge of the locks. And of course the technology, you also know, hackers, the opening of these locks is different than what you than how you view it, because this is all unintrusive technologies, and we don't have the traditional opening tools, that is the keys. Now in the picture you can see very special equipment, but this technology that I'm going to show you does not require a lot of things. We are just using traditional things. We just need a good magnifier. This is a magnifier of 4-fold. We also like this one combined with the lamp, because you can work very well with it. And you also need a very good file. I'll tell you what a good file is. And we also need forceps, so pincers. We need pincers. And we need pliers as well. Now, we are going to tell you what you need to do in this respect. You can also have a specific tool in order to a vise. You need a hand vise or a wrench vise. And let me just talk about the theory. Let me talk about the ideal lock. The ideal lock, as you can see in the picture, is a lock where all the holes in the cylinder, all the holes are linear, have the same diameter, and have been forged with perfect tools, so everything is ideal. Now, such an ideal lock could not be opened with these technologies. However, by the time such a lock makes it to our door, it goes through a lot of things, like, for example, a production technology, and the production technology is not always exact, it's not always perfect. Obviously, the tool itself has a certain tolerance of 100th or 1000th millimeters, but again, there is a certain tolerance and there is a imprecisity. Also, the tools, there is wear, tear and wear, and the cylinders also have differences in terms of diameter, in terms of length, there's also pollution in it. And let's also talk about the tear and wear of the locks. Not all the stifts, not all the cylinders have the same tear and wear. As I mentioned, we would not be able to open an ideal lock with these technologies, but a real lock can quite easily be opened with the right technology within a short matter of time. Now let's look at a real lock. A real lock where you have the so-called the errors or the mistakes, that is the problems that makes it differentiate them from an ideal lock. Now we have to rely on all of the lock-picking technologies because all of the lock-picking techniques are on the same principle. So if I apply tension to this lock, then due to the fact that they are not linear, they are not in the same, not in line, they are not aligned, the cylinders and the holes, so they are not exactly aligned. Therefore, it is always one stift and one cylinder that is going to prevent the lock from turning. So if we find that one cylinder and then we just press it down, in that case, then it is going to be another cylinder that is going to prevent the cylinder from turning. But again, it's going to be only one of the cylinders. So we are just going to keep searching from among the four left ones, and we just go as long as we get to the last one, and then pressing the last one down, the cylinder will just turn. So we will have pushed all the cylinders down, and this will make it possible to turn the lock, to open the lock. Now this is what we are doing with the same technology, but we do it a bit differently. Now, what about the key? You all had a lot of keys in your hand, but you did not really take a close look with a microscope, for example, to see what a virgin key looks like. This is a virgin key in the upper picture, and you can see the very hard nickel coating, and you can also see that there are certain reflections on the surface. And if we take a good quality file, and let me tell you what a good quality file is. This is either the German or the Swiss HIB standards, which means how many hits there were applied within 1 centimeter to have that file made. A Swiss number 4 file is something that you can already start using here. In Hungary, we've been looking for such a file for 2 years. We finally found one, but it was neither cheap nor easy to be found. So with HIB number 4 of Switzerland, this is already gives you a good start to go for an impression technology. Why do you need this quality? Now, the reason is that when we prepare the surface of the key, then we are actually going to get rid of the nickel coating there. And of course, the reason, the way we prepare this surface is that it should be homogeneous, unreflecting surface, therefore that requires a very well cut file. Now, if we use such a file and we prepare the edge of the key, then we get a homogeneous surface where any scratch is going to appear very significantly. Now let me just show Csaba. Now this is the key, the profile of the key. What he's doing now, he's using a very fine file, and where he really makes the filing is where he sees signs or scratches. It's not only going one depth lower, but also he's making the surface homogeneous. So when this is put into the lock and being moved, then the cylinder, that head that was just preventing the lock from turning, this is what is going to be leaving a mark. So these are the scratches that Csaba is looking for, and whenever he finds the scratches, he would file the key to cut the key. So much about the preparation. So it is a homogeneous surface that we want to have. And now let's understand the point of the technique. So when I put the virgin key into the lock and try to open it, as I said, there is going to be only one cylinder preventing the lock from turning. And the 1/2 or quarter millimeter that is there is just enough for us to try to find and cut the key. So I use the stift in order to scrub the edge of the key, and then I try to turn it leftwards, and I make the same method. I make it into two directions, in left and right, because you have different cones that are there, and you have different cones in the other direction as well. So it is always one pin or two pins that are there preventing the cylinder from turning. Now these, you can see it's a very small mark, a very small scratch on the homogeneous edge. Here you can see that there is again another mark here, and if we try to open it left to right again for a long time, then we will have quite a markant, quite a dominant, and it's open. I don't know how many minutes that was, but this was within the standard time. So when we have these scratches, then we open the key, and then we would just try to file off those scratches. Now this requires a lot of practice and a lot of skills, because I need to know the file, I need to know the material of the key, and it also needs a lot of practice. So I have to apply the file on the edge of the key just to go one cone or one pin down. It is important to know that in case of one pin, there are 9 different depths. So with the hit 4 file, we know that we have to press it 4 times, and that will give you one level lower, one depth lower. So again, it is again only the marking stifts that take you down to the different levels, and we go as long, we go as deep as there are signs, and second, that makes the lock opened, as it was demonstrated by Csaba. Now, if we want to help our eye to make the scratches or the signs even more, even stronger, we can use UV light, for example, ultraviolet light, because ultraviolet light will just gives you the scratches in black, and the homogeneous profile would be lighter. So if this is the contrast that you like, then you can use UV light. We can also use We can also use candles in order to smoke the marks, or you can use a marker. You can also apply wax in order to try to find the scratches. And as I mentioned, UV light. There are certain people who swear that the red light is the best or green light is the best. But if you go to a competition, you can see that there are three different lights applied at any one table, because some people say that they need a warm and a cold light in order to see the marks better or more sharp or pronounced. Now, the last opening, I think, was 87 seconds, which is a very nice performance. And of course, the key was not just a very simple one, it was a more complicated one. It also has drawbacks, I mean, the technique, because if we don't know the quality of the key, we could easily destroy the key and damage the key. And that will really this is something you want to avoid, because in addition to not opening the lock, you would also break the key into the lock, and this will give you double trouble. Now, if we see the end mark, then this means that you're in the right depth, but then there is also a major principle here that we only file as long as there is a mark. If there is no more mark or scratches, then we don't know to go any further, because we only have to file where there is a sign or a mark. Now, when we see the final mark, the final sign, we do not go back again. So if you look at the ready-made keys, you can see that this key is not similar to the original at all, because the original had these triangle type of shapes, which is not pressing the stifts at the lowest point, but they use the two external pins, but these ones actually are pressing the pins at the lowest possible level, and this is why the form of the key, the shape of the key is different. But at the same time, our key is going to work with the lock as well as the original one. You can also copy, you can also recut the key as well, and both statically and logically, it is at least as good as the original one, even though the form, the shape is different, but the function it does with the key, with the lock, is the same. Now, it's also worth to know that with this technique, it is not only stift type of locks that you can open, but similarly, you can also open dial locks, which you can see in the left upper corner, and this is that gives you the key impression there. Now, if you use stift locks, then you can see that in several rows you also have different stifts and different pins, and you can also open certain locks with the same technique, maybe a bit more skill and a bit more attention you need, but you can open them similarly. Now, that much about the impressioning, the file impressioning. But there is two different impressioning techniques that I'd like to present to you, which have the same logical foundation, but you will see that the technique applied here is significantly different than the other one applied there. I'd also like to make a leap, a logical leap, to the foil impressioning. Now, foil impressioning is something that requires the original key, at least something that fits into the lock, and then we have to pre-prepare the key with a view to going to the lowest pin level in order to eliminate the material there. So we have to file, or we have to cut the key as deep as possible in order to go as deep as possible concerning the pins. And we'll also have to take off the layer that is going to be replaced by the foil, because we are going to stick a self-adhesive aluminium foil. Why aluminium? If the aluminium starts to be scrubbed and scratched then by the stift, then it is just going to just going to align to the internal shape of the lock. Now here, you can use the original key profile or the original key for that matter, and then here for example Chinese locks, Chinese have developed an own opening technique where they prepare their own profiles which fit into the lock, and we just apply pressure and tension on the lock to open. We need a knife or a snitzer in order to prepare the foil, and then we put the key into the lock, and we move it up right and left as long as it opens. So you can also use a hand drill with alternating directions in order to use that to open the lock. Now, you can see some ready-made keys here, but quite interesting. I tried to find it on the net, and you don't really see pictures. Why you don't see pictures on the net is because when you pull the key out of the lock, you immediately destroy the lock. So as long as the key is within the lock, you can use it in an unlimited manner. But as soon as you pull it out, you lose the capability, because the aluminium foil just is destroyed when pulling out, so you can no longer use the key with the same lock. However, I can show you the picture of two keys and also the profile of the Chinese locks, which is quite destroyed, but this was the only way to pull it out. Now, this technique has an alternative, because we're also thinking in terms of alternative use of material, not only in case of aluminum foil, but we're also thinking in line or along the lines of shapeable material that could copy the internal shape. You can see a very special plaster in the left upper picture, and then you can see a special silicon, and you also see a prepared key which has been pre-prepared. There is a two-component metal adhesive applied here. Now, if this pre-prepared key is put into the lock and we start to turn it right and left, then the lamels would just bring off the metal adhesive, because that is quite a soft surface treatment, and it will be eroded to such an extent that the lock would open. Now, there's a special thing that I didn't mention. When there is a stift or a pin that is already in opening position, why does not scratch or scrab the surface any longer? Because we would think that the more we turn the key to the different directions, then sooner or later you would get the same marks by the 5 pins, and these holes would be of the same depth. But this is not true, because if we look at the different resistances, then we'll see that the only resistance here, resistance of the pin, is just the resistance of the resistance of the pin is just the resistance of the lock. However, here it is only those pins that would damage or that would scratch the surface that are under tension. So this also shows you that you can use impressioning with alternative material depending on what you actually need or what you actually prefer. Let me just skip forward logically. Again, this is impressioning, but I'm going to show you special tools for special requirements and tasks. These are called the own impressioning tools, self-impressioning tools and technique. Now, this again means that you put the key into the lock, and you apply a certain movement, a special measure, and by that you prepare the necessary key. Let me just show you a tool, but before showing you the tool, let me give you an example. I wonder if you ever held a contour copy machine, that's contour copy device. So if, for example, you want to cut your kitchen counter, then you just take the contour cutting tool and then you push it against the tube and you keep adjusting it as long as you have the contour on the key. Now, if you think that you put it to the tube and you start moving it right to left and left to right, then you also put a tool similar to a key into the lock, and while the pins are being moved and while this tool is being moved within the lock, then this is going to give you the contour of the ready-made key that is going to open the lock at the end of the day. Now, how do you prepare such a tool? You just take a bar. I didn't say this is a nail of 100 millimeter, but because the Bulgarians and the Russians use this, the 100 millimeter nail. So you take a bar of that size and you just cut. You just cut a simple shape into the surface that would be able to receive the pin. And then you would also cut a screw on the nail, and then you will put a spring and a bolt into that. Why do you need the spring and the bolt? You need the spring and the bolt because you will have to press this into the lock, applying tension, and to keep up that tension you need the bolt that is going to give you the tension. And there is also a general rule that the force of pressing this pin should be 3 times as much as the spring force of the given pin. Now, the ready-made tool, at the end of the spring, will just add all the pins needed to press the right lamels of the key. So again, this means that I have to put as many pins into the lock as many lamels I have. But again, this. As a consequence, you cannot make a ready-made tool to open this lock. You need a ready-made tool. This is what it looks like from this side, and this is in the basic position. So when I put it into the lock in the basic position, and I'm moving it into the different directions, there is I'm applying tension on the lamels. Then the lamels will retransmit that force onto the key, and the shtifts or the pins, sooner or later are going to be in the right position because you will always have only one pin at a time preventing the cylinder from turning. So sooner or later you will have all of the pins pressed down, and then the lock will just open. I've not mentioned yet that these tools could be used for the highest safety level, security level, doors, locks, and safe deposit box. In Hungary, these are only opened by a rotating saw, because they don't know this technique, or this technique is not available here. You can also see that for each and every lock type, you need to purchase your own equipment. This is the best in the market, best available in the market, Magic E, from 250 to 550 euros a piece, and then a complete set, including the including all five, would cost 20,000 euros. Now, I wanted to list to you the most commonly used names, the ones that are most widespread in Hungary: Mokura, Sakura, CR, Potent Roads, Guardian, Seaside, Jewel, FAG, and so forth. FAG is the last one. And I think a Hungarian locksmith is better off acquiring or obtaining these tools. Now, in the next picture, in this one, you can see certain tools manufactured by ourselves using fine mechanics, production or manufacturing techniques. You can see the difference between this and the previously showed tools in terms of their design, but in terms of functionality, it is equivalent with the previously showed professional ones. But again, you need your special own tool for each and every environment. Let me give you a close-up of such a tool. I have to tell you that I had such a tool I already had the opportunity of holding such a tool in my hand. It is very nicely and precisely prepared, but you have to be very careful because any error or mistake you would make would just damage the key and eventually the lock. So you need skills, you need a very fine hand movement because otherwise, as I said, you would just spoil and destroy the key. We cannot show you any of those equipment, or sorry, any of those tools. They are not here, but at least the technique is something I can show you. We are holding a 2-day lockpicking workshop in one of the neighboring rooms. Should any of you be interested in these techniques, you have the opportunity. And you can use it not only for locks and other but not only for locks, but you can also use it to open safe deposit boxes, the ones that you can buy in one of the bricolage chains. So you can use a potato to open a safe deposit box. So you probably have seen the video on YouTube. And then there is another thing we are going to demonstrate why you don't need what you need to do in Hungary in order to tackle with the easily openable locks. Thank you very much for your kind attention.